All right, Virginia, U.S. history. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. Uh, Basically, the beginning of pop culture, the 1920s and 30s, this is going on, as well as the big event between the wars. We have the stock market crash of 1929. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. Now, moving into it, we are going to see the beginning of mass media. All right. And this all really begins with the radio, because before this, the way that people got their news was like newspapers, the occasional type of magazine, but that was basically it. And the news that you're getting might be days, if even weeks old. But with the introduction of the radio, you could get up to date news like the day of or the day after something happened. Okay. You're also going to start seeing entertainment. So we're going to see, music being played on the radio. We're going to hear radio dramas. So basically, a TV show without actually seeing what's going on, but you're hearing everything. You're getting narration. So think like an audiobook. That's basically what these radio shows were like. You get fireside chats like in the 30s when you have President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who is basically talking about the state of the country on a regular basis, speaking directly to the American people, trying to keep everybody calm while we're in the recovery of the Great Depression. All right. So you're going to see some iconic shows like, The Lone Ranger, like down here. That's going to be like one of those iconic ones. You're going to get a lot of those detective stories, romances. You're going to get science fiction. Like one of the most famous radio science fiction events that there was a reading of H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, and people actually thought it was a real alien invasion. So yeah, and many houses, like quite a lot of households would have radios, and it just became a thing that people had in their house. People would sit around the radio and listen to it and enjoy their shows. We're also going to see the invention of the movies. All right, so like the movie theater or the movie house as it was called. uh, we're going to see newsreels, especially when you get into like the 30s. You're going to start seeing like newsreels where there's going to be probably a voiceover of somebody talking about what's going on around the country or around the world, and you're going to see video images of it. We're also going to see a mention of like the movie itself. So to help give an escape from the realities of life, which are pretty harsh during this time, you're going to see the rise of actors like Charlie Chaplin. You're going to see, fictional tales like Frankenstein being brought to life on the big screen. You're going to see the first superhero films like Batman, which this one I believe was more like the 50s when it was made, but still. Now you're going to get your popular westerns. You're going to get ones that are actually propaganda films like Reefer Madness, which was actually speaking out against the use of drugs. All right. And we're also going to be seeing, more in the way of newspapers and magazines. They're going to be calling for more of like the societal side of things. We're going to see fashion magazines becoming a thing now. Muckraking is still going to be very popular. People digging up the dirt on businesses and people. That's how we get like the tabloids now. We're also going to see how they're going to shape trends. So we're going to see stuff like, with the fashion magazines, with, better living. So like, what's the new thing to have in your house? What's the new technology everyone's raving about? All that type of stuff. Selling like that ideal lifestyle for everyone to want, for what everybody thinks they should have. All right. This is also going to be the time where traditional values are going to be challenged. So like Darwin, everyone's heard of the evolution theory, right? So that is going to be Darwin's theory, and that's actually going to be on trial with this guy Scopes. So this is the state of Tennessee versus John Thomas Scopes, also known as the monkey trial, because July 1925, he was a substitute high school teacher, and he was accused of violating Tennessee's Butler Act, which had made it unlawful to teach human evolution in any state-funded school. He intentionally did this to make a point, and the trial was basically to bring attention to the fact that, like, evolution is a pretty supportable theory, and why not teach multiple ideas and let the kids make it up for themselves, like agree with what they think might be accurate, which is why, in schools today, we pretty much present a couple different things. That's why we talk about multiple religions. We talk about multiple theories on things. And it's like, okay, here's the information we have. Now you can make up your own mind. All right. Also, another challenge to traditional values is the role of women in society. The 1920s is going to be a huge thing for women's rights. 1920, the first year of it, we're going to see women winning the right to vote. We're going to see women being able to go out and get more jobs. We're going to see fashion changing dramatically. So you have a very conservative side here, which is like the pre-1920s. And then we're going to get the flappers, which are the women wearing the shorter dresses. They're having short haircuts. They're getting jobs. They're going out on the town with their own, spending their own money, going to bars, going to clubs, dancing in public, all this type of stuff. And it had never been done before. So there would be a lot of support and a lot of pushback on things like this. Right? We're also going to see some stuff happening with immigration, like the Immigration Restriction Act of 1921, where we're only letting a limited amount of people come to the US in general, as well as from certain countries. And this is going to help give rise to a new KKK, which is anti-immigrant, as well as being anti-other groups that are in the United States. The KKK is going to rise and fall several times in history. There will, the more outspoken they get, the more the government will crack down on them and make them go away. So, like, they come back and forth in American history, because they had already been eliminated one time back in the later 1800s under President Grant, but then they had a bit of a resurgence in the early 1900s. All right. We're also going to see organized crime having a rise in, the 1920s and 30s. Prohibition is in state. This was the banning of the production and the distribution and sale of alcohol in the United States. So you have all these organized criminals like Al Capone, who makes a ton of money off of selling smuggled alcohol in the United States, along with many, many other gangsters of the time, whether it's in New York, Chicago, or Philadelphia, or Boston, wherever. And actually, if you look into the Kennedy family, like President John F. Kennedy, his father was actually a bootlegger back during Prohibition, and that's how the Kennedys made a bunch of money. And then they got involved with real estate, and it just increased from there. All right. Speakeasies. If you've ever seen a gangster movie that takes place in like the 20s, 30s, whatever, the speakeasy is that hidden bar that's like in the basement or a back room of another business. So like you walk down the dark alley, you knock on the door, the little slot opens up. What's the password? You say the password to go in, and it's like this dark, dimly lit room. There's smoke from cigarettes and cigars all over, and people are like having a big party, right? That's a speakeasy. It's an illegal underground bar. We're also going to see, for organized crime, an increase in bank robberies. All right. Now, one example is this guy right here that Johnny Depp portrays in the movie Public Enemies. That's John Dillinger, one of the most famous American bank robbers of all time. There are many stories that I can tell about him, but one of my favorites is the time that he broke out of jail using a gun that he carved out of a block of soap. Yeah, basically he does that and he goes up behind a guard, puts it against the guard's back, and it's like, all right, we're on our way out of here. The guard, not knowing that's a fake gun, he complies because he doesn't want to get shot. So he basically does that and then gets away. So yeah, some pretty cool stuff like that. So in conclusion on pop culture, it is basically reflecting the prosperity of the 1920s in America and showing all the social transition that we are going through. All right, more money, there's more luxuries that are happening. You know, people are getting to do more stuff. They're not just working all the time. But while the 1920s was a party, come 1929, everything's going to come to us just smack into a wall, dead stop, because we're going to see the stock market crash. All right. So after World War One, we are coming onto the world stage as a global power. We are on the rise. And the 1920s, the stock market is just booming. People are investing tons of money. They're taking out loans from banks and people that they can't pay back, and they're investing that money they borrowed. And when the market crashed and just died, people had no way to pay that money back. So businesses are failing, stocks are losing their value, prices of those stocks are falling, production slows, banks are closing, they're dying, unemployment is going to be on the rise significantly. So yeah, and this all happens because people are spending and using more money than they make. So living excessively is not good, guys. Yeah. Not to mention, banks are also investing money, more money than they should. They're investing people's bank accounts and losing those. So everyone everywhere is losing a ton of money if they are involved with, the stock market. If you were poor, your situation didn't really change that much, other than the fact you may have lost your job because your business got shut down because it ran out of money. So yeah, October 1929, also known as Black Thursday, because it was like the darkest day in the American stock market because the prices just dropped through the floor. And yeah, it got so bad that people, instead of having to deal with the financial issues, a number of people would actually commit suicide, like jumping out of windows type stuff. All right, so the consequences, people are panicking. They're trying to get their money out of the banks, finding out that the banks are actually out of money because they already, gave out what they had, or there was just none to give. So no investing in banks is happening either. No investing in new businesses. Everybody is losing fortunes. So just a really, really bad time. It's going to take a long time to recover. All right. So that is where we are leaving off for today. When we come back next time, we will be talking about the Great Depression and the New Deal, which helps us get out of the Depression. Talk to you later, guys.